Dusi Canoe Marathon from this year. I must admit, I did laugh at Bruce Fordyce's comment that he thought it might be the up run. I can promise him there's no way he's going to get up that river. It's hard enough getting down it. The venue, of course, Pietermaritzburg, to end in the Blue Lagoon in Durban. Your host for all the action. He was down there for the full 3 days and followed it very closely. On he gets.
Hello and welcome to the 48th edition of the Panasonic Dusi Canoe Marathon. We're looking forward to a fine race starting here in Pietermaritzburg and finishing 3 days later and more than 120 kilometers later at the Blue Lagoon in Durban. Water conditions, it's just about perfect. Weather has been like it's been on order. Just before the start, we spoke to defending champions Mark Perro and Neil Evans in the K2 category. Mark Perro, one of the favorites, together with Neil Evans, defending champions. Seconds before the start, how are you guys feeling?
Yeah, good. It's going to be a good day. I hope the cloud cover lasts, but I think it's going to burn off in the next half an hour. It's going to be a very, very tough race. It's wide open. There's 6 or 7 boats that can win. I think it's going to come down to whoever's the fittest and strongest in the day. Yeah, we're feeling good.
Neil, the water conditions, with so much water in there, this seems to suit the two of you absolutely perfectly.
Very much so. Big water, it should be good fun, means minimal running, which is definitely in our favour. Let's just hope we can get the boat through. If we can get the boat through, then there'll definitely be a good race on today.
John Edmonds, just a very quick word for television. Morning to you.
Morning, Ollie.
Your chances of being a big threat this year, lots of people are saying watch out for the Edmonds brothers.
Well, yeah, we always sort of come in with a late charge, but I think, yeah, I'm fairly optimistic. The competition's very fierce this year and much more open than last year.
Yeah, there's no question that we've got more teams that can win than we've ever had before. In the past, there have been 2 or 3 front contenders. This year, there are 7 or 8 boats getting into the water right now who seriously believe that they can win this race.
But during the Dusi Canoe Marathon, there were some unexpected faces to be seen around as well. Oscar Chalupski, tell us what it's like to take one of South Africa's most premier men down this river, and you've not done too much work together before the time.
Well, the 4 times we paddled, he's done very well, and I think he's definitely made of stronger things to take the South African team to the African Nations Cups win and to the World Cup, and I think it's going to be fun.
Crazy. If you'd asked me a couple of weeks ago, I said, no, you're going to be out your skull, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be fantastic. I've got the best coach, and if he doesn't get me through, he's fired anyway.
Talking about firing, the start is called to raise paddles to start off this KwaZulu-Natal epic. And for the next 3 days, the Umzanduzi River would reverberate with boat, breath and bellow. The Panasonic Dusi Canoe Marathon may start off absolutely furiously, but within the first 5 minutes of hitting the water, the paddlers encounter the Ernie Pierce Weir, and they, with the river as full as what it is, the spectators get their full money's worth. For some of the paddlers, Ernie Pierce is no more than just another day at the office. With absolute ease, they negotiate this fish slide built almost 10 years ago, making it look fish easy. But for others, well... Even Oscar and the dog, or Mr. Barker as his friends call him, went crayfishing, as the term goes. Just behind them, Brother Herman had a shark in their engine room, in the shape of Cobos van der Westhuizen. Perro and Evans seeking a hat-trick of wins, joined by Roy Pepper and Wayne Wilson, who took one of 3 alternative routes below the rapid. At the weir, however, Grant Wilson and Alan Sharp ran into trouble, just to demonstrate how tough it is to find the right line. But watch out for the Edmonds brothers, John and Andrew. They cleverly avoid the carnage and slip through, but it cost them 6 places as the front 4, Pepper and Wilson, Hartings, Perro and Evans, and Stott and Colby Murray, and another local team, Kenley Murray and Brett Owen, take it away. To make up time, the Edmonds brothers would need a superhuman effort.
one of the favourites. The youngsters 20-year-old Stott and 26-year-old Murray used their local knowledge of this part of the river to take the lead for the first time. The distinct livery on their canoe stood out clearly from the dense KwaZulu-Natal bush, and their lead grew with every stroke of the blade. The battle for third was between Owen and Murray and Pepper and Wilson, while the defending champions settled into second.
Fine, we've got 3 days to go. Come, cows, push him up, yeah?
Big boy.
And the effort of this huge hill was clearly audible.
David, yes, it is. Okay, we see at the bottom there. Go, it's good.
After low-level bridge, then a breakaway of the top 5 boats at the top, working their way past Campbell's Farm Portage, and now the race was really on.
And none more so than for the Edmonds brothers, who had surged back into the top 5. 1/3 of the day completed, and Stott and Murray were stamping their authority on this 36-kilometre journey. Rowan and Hamilton Brown, Pepper and Wilson and White and Wilson were in second, a minute adrift. The 3-time singles winner John Edmonds and younger brother Andrew had flown up and down hill and dale and had indeed produced a superhuman effort. However, Stott and Murray were earning their stripes up front and built their lead even further to the Campbell's Farm checkpoint. The Edmonds duo found themselves in an extraordinary second, 93 seconds back due to the fact that Neil Evans had a drinking system problem that had to be adjusted. It caused them to stop, and from there the swap in their running positions. But 1995 K1 champion Kevin White started his traditional surge right here, taking partner Murray Wilson with him. Perro and Evans were going steadily and seemed to be pacing themselves cleverly. With the rest of the field following closely behind the leaders at the Guinea Fowl Portage takeout, these paddlers have to stay in touch with the front to stay in contention. With the steep hills testing the paddlers to the limit, the passage to Jeff's Road put in requires great strength and determination.
Devil's Cauldron, one of the biggest obstacles on the first day, has been passed, and still Stott and Murray going superbly, now with a gap of almost 2.5 minutes.
The Edmonds brothers, after their big surge, had to contain that margin, but the youngsters were pushing them to the limit, whilst Perro and Evans were steady in third place. In the shadow of Table Mountain, Stott and Murray encountered their next problem, with Murray starting to cramp up, and Stott, however, saves the day with a brave effort of keeping the momentum going and running single-handedly with a K2 boat on his shoulder, giving Murray, his partner, time to recover. Meanwhile, back at Mission Bridge, the leading women, Witten and White, were on their way to the finish, making it look oh so easy through this rapid. But for the rest of the field, the potential was definitely there for things to go wrong. At the finish, the professional paddler Anthony Stott and the Scottsville primary school teacher Kelby Murray had day one all sewn up. They completed the 36 kilometers in one of the fastest times ever, a superb effort by the two young favourites. Back at the Cabbage Street Portage, and as the winners had crossed the line at the Dusi Bridge, the struggle continued. But not for the first women's pair. Debbie Witten and Wendy White, the defending champions, were going well. Back at the finish, temperatures were rapidly climbing, and for the men and women further back, it would be a long, long day. The Valley leader, Chief Mlaba, handed the traditional shield and headgear to the victors, Stott and Murray, who were there, more than happy with a very, very good day's work.
We started off fairly hard and we just tried to hang with the guys. And then when we got to that taxi rapid, we managed to get away first, and then from there, we just were lucky to just keep ahead the whole way.
There was some cramping going on at one stage there.
Yeah, a couple of minutes, but you know, we didn't lose control. Ant was very brave. He took the boat for about a minute, managed to get through it, and I don't think it will affect us at all.
In 92, Pero and Evans were 5 minutes down after day 1 and still won.
We were given a split of 6 minutes one stage. I don't think that it was quite that bad. It was probably 4 minutes. But to finish within 2 minutes, we're very chuffed.
With vital time lost early on, the Edmonds brothers always had their work cut out for them.
We ran very well. Well, Andrew ran very well. He's incredibly strong. He's paddling, he's carrying the back of the boat with the 2 paddles in the back there. And up the hills, I felt like I was doing no effort. He was just shoving me all the way up. So he might be very tired. I'm as fresh as a daisy.
While the boat ponds were filling up with competitors finishing the first day, we even got to see some of the celebs home.
That was a lot of fun. Quite scary, but I had a brilliant pilot, Alec Rennie, pulled me through all the rapids. And in fact, we nearly embarrassed ourselves right here by falling out in front of the crowd.
Time for boat and body to repair and prepare for the next day.
I put a stick straight in my eye right in the beginning. I'm 21st, and it's lovely. The water's fantastic, and it's one of the best.
It went very well. It's great fun.
A happy sight as the Bafana becomes a Dusi man.
Yeah, it's tough. It really was tough, mate, hey? But he's a genius, and he's the best coach in the water in the country, eh?
Heartwarming to see some of the development teams arriving looking strong as well.
Last year's Dusi, I failed to finish it, and I think this year I'll finish.
So with 1/3 completed, Stott and Murray with a 1 minute and 31 second cushion over the Edmonds brothers, and the Pero and Evans combination 1 minute and 51 seconds back. That would be a big factor on day 2. In the men's over 40 category, Robert Lampeta and former winner Tim Cornish led by more than 12 minutes. And in the women's section, the Witten-White combination enjoyed a massive 23-minute lead over Geltart and Wenker. Day 2 and the sunrise warming the aches and pains of most paddlers, but the spirits was still high.
We're 67th at the moment, so we'd like to drop at about 18 positions, get in the top 50 again. It'd be great.
A hive of activity here in the boat pond at the overnight stop after day 1. But as this was happening and these batches were preparing for their start, the overnight leaders were preparing to start on elapsed time. That included the first men together with the first women.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
First away was Murray and Stott, with women's leaders Wendy White and Debbie Witten hot on their heels. Followed by the Edmonds brothers, with Pero and Evans almost on their slip in this rally-style start on elapsed time.
1, go.
Day 2 has its fair share of lurking dangers that would most certainly test the skills of all the paddlers. Just after the start, about 10 minutes in, the Dusi bridge portage, which is compulsory. Then the saddles, which can make or break Day 2 for you. Confluence, one of the most difficult parts on the route of Day 2. The washing machine is the next obstacle in the course and would ask the expertise of all the top men and women, not to mention those further back. Marioni Foley's Bridge and Ngumeni Hill could also make a big difference on Day 2. An hour after the leaders set off, it was time for the early batches to begin their mission. With the Dusi Bridge a compulsory portage just after the start, a fair amount of paddlers decide to stay on dry land from the outset down the left, as the most difficult thing to cope with is the congestion whilst getting back on the river. Meanwhile, up at the front, Stott and Murray had further increased their lead by taking a much faster route down the right bank into the confluence of the Dusi and the mighty Umgeni. With the leaders comfortably through the hole at the bottom of Elaine's Rapid that tested the hard racing crews, it would undoubtedly prove challenging to some of the fish and chips who were still enjoying breakfast at the overnight stop before their start at the off. The water level was rising rapidly due to steady overnight rain, and at Willem Shoot, Stott and Murray realized that firsthand. While the drama was unfolding ahead of them, the Edmonds duo and the Gauteng pair were battling each other relentlessly. After recovering well, Stott and Murray shot to shoot, but even with their underwater excursion, their lead was secure, and still more than 3.5 minutes. Edmonds, being the shoot tactician that he is, conned Evans and Perro into thinking that he was going to portage, and at the very last minute, Edmonds ducked into Willem's chute, clearly taking a distinct advantage over the champions who were climbing over rocks and boulders. This was a bold and go-for-broke attempt carried out superbly to establish a clear lead over the third-placed boat. And Evans were hacking their way through the dense KwaZulu-Natal undergrowth, forcing their way along the narrow, slippery portage, and in a matter of seconds, they'd lost contact and a lot of time over the Edmonds brothers. Approaching the gauging weir, Edmonds, now with the initiative, had to make a decision, to shoot or to portage. To stay in touch with the leaders, he goes for the brave option, to shoot gauging weir, with almost disastrous results. The boat bottomed out heavily, a paddle was lost, and more importantly, it gave Perro and Evans a chance to close up the gap almost instantaneously. In effect, this decision cost the Edmonds team. The clock was ticking, and they were stuck with a waterlogged boat. The proverbial situation, stuck up the creek without a paddle. Perro and Evans, having decided beforehand rather to be safe than sorry, portaged there and allowed the Edmonds team to lead into Marioni Foley Bridge. But Perro took an unusual line and almost paid the price. At the start of the day, a lot of water was released from the Henley Dam upstream. So there was a lot more water than the day before, and this is where Perro decides to go through the middle of the bridge, the more unusual line, and look at the huge waters they encounter there. The boat sucked back by the force of the massive water coming straight back at them and almost taking a swim there. This was not the last say that Marioni Foley Bridge had, as the rest of the field still had to make their way through this hazardous obstacle. The carnage of boats and desperate faces was a true reflection of how tough and dangerous this race really is.
Almost at the top of Ngumeni Hill then, and John Edmonds and his brother Andrew, after taking that big spill, now just with a very, very short margin over Perro and Evans, and the gap at this stage whittled down to 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
A few kilometers downstream from Marioni Foley, Hippo Rocks, named so for obvious reasons, almost marks the halfway point on day 2, and the 1998 edition again provided the usual thrills and spills. Hippo is recognized by grizzly old aficionados of the Panasonic Dusi as one of the most fickle and dangerous spots on the river. As the leading veterans Robert Lambetta and former winner Tim Cornish demonstrate, they would finish 27th overall on day 2. The leaders in the junior category under 18s, Bruss and Biggs had no problems with Hippo, belying their age. While for others, the 1998 Dusi was a thing of the past. On the flip side of the coin, Wendy White and Debbie Witten were far from wrapping their boat around anything, and at the top of Inanda Dam had forced their way into 47th place overall.
We are now exactly 23 minutes into the last leg on the Inanda Dam, but already Evans and Perro had whittled down the lead, which was almost 4 minutes, to just 3 minutes and 20 seconds. But Stott and Murray weren't going to give up without a fight, and they were still working well together.
This 47-year-old classic race has certainly been taken into a new era, with Stott and Murray celebrating their second-day win at the finish line. The results after day 2, and Stott and Murray enjoyed a healthy 3.5-minute lead over the defending champions, who were in fact hunting a hat-trick of wins in the K2 section. Taran Watermeyer surged through the field to finish 5th overall. In the over 40s category, Lambeta and Cornish were 27th overall and had a 17-minute advantage over Briggs and Stain from Dabula Manzi. That rumour about Witten and White being unbeatable seemed confirmed. They had a 41-minute lead after day 2.
It's day 3 of the 1998 Panasonic Dusi Canoe Marathon. It starts here at the Inanda Dam and finishes a little more than 30 kilometers later at the Blue Lagoon in Durban. However, in between, one of the biggest obstacles during the 3-day race, Burma Road. We also found out if indeed the race has already been won.
Can't really say at the moment, but we're just going to go our hardest and hopefully it should be enough.
320 is quite a tall order. If we can get through those rapids and the boat's in one piece, then there's still a race on.
It was another rally-style start as the paddlers set sail on the track across the Inanda Dam over 4 kilometers. Stott and Murray were happy to get off the flat water as they portaged over the dam wall towards Tops Needle. The battle for 3rd place was between the Edmonds brothers and White and Wilson. The top women, Wendy White and Debbie Witten, were determined to stay in their top 50 position. The biggest obstacle of day 3 was and always will be the Burma Road portage. The full river conditions this year gave paddlers the option to paddle around Burma Road and make up time. This, however, did mean that they had to take the gamble of negotiating the Island Rapids. Stott and Murray found the going tough as they elected to take the left channel at Island Rapid, and in their effort to make up time, Perro and Evans went for the big water in the right-hand channel. But that gamble didn't pay off this time, and even with all their experience, number 1 Island Rapid proved to be too much for them. Still in 3rd position, the experienced Edmonds brothers decided to stick to the conservative option of the portage over Burma Road.
The race for the coveted goal is a little bit further back rather than at the front. This is Richardson and Eindhoven going extremely well in 9th place. So that coveted gold still within reach.
Right, come ladies.
60 meters, eh?
Push, Robert. Push.
Leading the veteran section, Tim Cornish and Robert Lambeta felt the heat as they reached the top of Burma Road, with the drinks point a welcome sight for most of the paddlers. The downhill stretch to the river proved tireless for some. Kenny Reynolds dragging his boat down to save precious energy. Tremendous support from the locals, and quite frankly, if you take part in this thing, you deserve a high five. For the rest of the field that opted for the H2O, there was the restless waters of Little John Rapid to contend with. coastal city of Durban, the holiday destination for millions of South Africans and international tourists. And the banks of the Umgeni River at Blue Lagoon was where the crowds witnessed the changing face of canoeing, as the young guns Ann Stott and Kelby Murray paddled across the line in first place with a huge 5-minute margin to spare.
And Stott and Kelby Murray, what a great win that was. Tell us what it was like coming home to an ovation and a win like that.
Amazing feeling. Can't explain it. Oh, it's just the best thing ever. Can't.
Has it been worth all the hard work, Kelby?
Without a doubt, we've had tremendous support from our families and our seconds. Our seconds were all over today, standing chest deep in the water with spare paddles, bottles and tape, just in case something went wrong. So our backup was right, and we know there was a lot of people rooting for us.
A solid race for defending champions Pero and Evans, who had to settle for second place. And finishing in 51st position overall, White and Whitten led the women's category from start to finish. The results, and Stott and Murray in a class of their own, and victory by 5 minutes and 29 seconds, while Clark and Hereford clinched a coveted top 5 place. One-way traffic for the women, and a record by 10 minutes for Whitten and White. In the junior section, Sven Bruss and Sean Biggs managed a convincing victory with 15 minutes to spare. In the over 40 section, Cornish and Lambete finished in 29th overall to beat Briggs and Stein by 23 minutes. And in the mixed doubles, Conradi and Valder from Neisner finished in a respectable 58th place.
So, after 3 very arduous days during the 1998 Panasonic Dusi Canoe Marathon, a changing of the guard, and perhaps the older paddlers in this race will have their work cut out for them in years to come. Well, until that time next year, we say goodbye from the Panasonic Dusi Canoe Marathon.